Hey guys, welcome back. We got the big grade 10 Stocheia version deck. We'll go with that. So this deck I don't think is super great. I think it's a very funny meme. If you wanted to play the grade 10 better, I'd say just build like the Dragon Empire version. But I don't want to spend money on Esperal ideas, so instead I'm a Stocheia main. I play Stocheia. So we'll play the Stocheia version even if it's the worst version. But yeah, this is what I've kind of concocted. I think once we get to set 10, there's a lot more cards to add in that'll make the deck flow a lot more smoothly. For now, it's just fine, right? Like, we're okay with it. But the goal of this version, because a lot of people are like, well, for this, which I'll go over the effect, it has to do with using orders. And people are like, well, we could just use this to get the Dragon Tree marker and we could just skip out on the orders. I am going to play orders. As you can tell by the Zorgam hat, I do have a thing for that. So I'm going to put together this very weird list. So we got the Griphogila as our starter. So Griphogila is for every Calamity card under in the soul. It gets +2. And at the beginning of the ride phase, instead of discarding, you take a Calamity Order from your ride deck and put it into the soul. So every turn you're going to put one. So you're going to put the grade 1. Next turn you're going to put the grade 2. And then the last turn you're going to put the grade 3. But once you hit 3, all these go back to your ride deck and you ride the grade 10 Griphogila from deck. So it's a very interesting concept. You basically don't have access to any. Well, once set 10 comes, we have access to some funnier plays, but you're basically playing Vanguard only until your turn 3, because he's a grade 0 Vanguard, so you'll be on a grade 0. But I mean, he'll hit for 8 and he'll hit for 10 on your respective grade 1 and grade 2 turn. And the last card in the ride deck is the Stocheia Overtrigger. Now you're like, well, if you don't know why this is in the ride deck, as part of his ability, I believe one of them forces you to. Sorry, it's the starter. The starter forces you to have the Overtrigger in your ride deck, but the grade 10 makes actual use of the Overtrigger. So for my choice of Overtrigger, I picked Bless Favor. I think Bless Favor is the kind of better one. I think the only nation that would potentially want the Cray Elemental one is Dark States, but yeah, otherwise, this is your standard Stocheia ride line for the Griphogila. So we'll set that aside here. And we'll go to the only grade 10 of the deck, which is 4 copies of Griphogila. So you're gonna once you hit your third Calamity Order, he's gonna let you ride this from deck. So what he does is on play you get 2 Dragon Tree markers. Where did I set it? There you go. So you get this guy. So what this does, if your Vanguard is a Dragon Tree or a Mask, which you'll see later in set 10, but the zone that is on it gets +5, or the unit that's on the zone gets +5. So if I have the grade 10 on rear guard, this thing gets +5, so it's an 18k beater on every one of my turns. It's cute, right? So it's a funny little gimmick. Its other ability is it gets +5 for every Dragon Tree marker I have, and if that number is 3 or more, he gets a crit. So once you hit 3, you sink for 28 with a crit. Not bad. If you can fill out your board, you hit for what is it? The 43 with a crit. It's not bad, right? No, it's 38 with a crit. My bad. But it's just a nice little beat stick effect. But the last effect is the big important one of the deck. So every time this swings, you're going to take a Calamity Order from your ride deck and get rid of it, right? Remove it from the game completely. So you're going to go for your first grade 3 turn, you get rid of the grade 1. Your second grade 3 turn, you get rid of the grade 2. And the third grade 3 turn, you get rid of the grade 3. That's when his effect procs. So his effect will then be to activate your over trigger from your ride deck. Oh. And then you get to restand all of your rear guards that are on the Dragon Tree markers. So it's kind of cool, right? You're going to give a unit 100 million, you're going to draw 2 cards, give a unit crit, front row 10k, heal a damage if you're at war. It's cute, right? the the Dragon Empire one is definitely the better version, but it's a cute little playstyle that you can do. You're basically sitting until turn 6, and then you're going to try to win the game there, or at least do enough damage that your opponent can't like get to you. You know what I mean? Like you just deplete them of all their or enough resources that their next turn just kind of whiffs, and then you kill them on the crackback. So that's our only grade 10s because I've only made that grade 10. Going on to the grade 2 lineup. So we're playing 4 copies of this little lady. So what she does is if you have 3 or more orders in your drop or bind, she gets 5k shield. So not exactly a beater, but it is just a little shield value to keep you going, right? Because you'll normally have like a couple orders engraved anyways. So you're basically using this as a defensive option so that you're stalling to get to your third grade 10 turn. 4 copies of Coffin Shooter. So Coffin Shooter, Soul Blast 1, bind an order from your drop, call this to the field. You don't really have a lot of soul in this deck, which is why we play 1 copy of her, which is if you have no soul, you soul charge 2. The Coffin Shooter is just so you can sort of like dump out like enough to guard, but still have like a board left over. We'd play Roaming Prison Dragon, but Roaming Prison Dragon just is not a good choice yet. Once we hit set 10, I will absolutely be including Roaming Prison Dragon in this deck instead because it's a lot better. It'll be a lot better, but as of now, this is the better one to do just because it has shield and it's just a free body that'll come back. You don't need to play in order. You just need to get rid of one. She can probably get cut, but I think having the extra soul charge is kind of fun for abusing the grade 1 Dragon Tree, which we will get into now, actually. Because our only grade 1s in the deck are 4 copies of... It's Bist Alvis is the name. So when it's placed, you can counterblast 1 to make a Dragon Tree marker. Cool. But its other abilities, once per turn, you counterblast 1, soul blast 1, grab an order from your drop zone, put it into your hand. It's the whole kind of gimmick of the deck is we're just grabbing back any order and then just using the order that gives you an extra drive check and just kind of going off with it, right? So you need to play 4. It's a good card, so I don't see why you wouldn't play 4, and then 4 perfect guards. Order lineup is a little wonky, right? Because you're like, well, you just talked about using that order that gives you an extra drive check, which like, hey, what do you know? I play 4 copies of it. That card's good. Gather upon me, you wandering souls. The other order I play is a little interesting, and I'll explain why. So I'm playing 4 copies of Tearful Malice. Now, why am I playing Tearful Malice over any other order, right? From the testing that I've done, you don't get enough like soul to warrant using what's it called? Nectar of Sensationalism, which is 5k for every card, or 5k for every 5 cards in your drop, and if you hit 15 or more, the unit gets a crit, right? You're like, yeah, that seems like a lot better than this. This gives me soul and it gives me counterblast, so I can keep popping off of the Bist Alvis, which is kind of good. But realistically, this doesn't necessarily matter, right? You're not concerned about activating this every turn. You're concerned about activating this every turn. So this could practically be a blank order. I just didn't want to pick anything that used a Soul Blast. And I was like, you know what? This card isn't horrible. This card seems fine. If you think of something that you would like better to use, then go ahead. But that's it's kind of like a placeholder spot. Once we hit set 10, this card absolutely comes out for more interesting order card, a grade 0 order card. I don't like Wild Intelligence because people like you can play Wild Intelligence like your turn while you're riding up, and you get a body back, and it's like you do get a body back, but the body you get back is a grade 0 because you're on grade 0, and that's how Wild Intelligence works. So I just don't care for it personally. But trigger lineup, we're playing 8 crit. We play an order that gives us an extra drive check. We might as well try to sack, right? 3 draw because we want to draw some cards, and 4 heal because again the goal is to make it to turn turn 5 practically. So yeah, that is it for the Dragon Tree deck. It's an interesting one. It feels like you're playing this like kind of this game of chicken, right? You're just kind of like prodding and poking your opponent until you're gonna go to your turn and be like, well, die, hopefully. It's a fun deck. I don't think this is something you're bringing to tournaments and like doing insanely well with. I think it's just a fun deck to have, and I highly recommend like if you have the cards for the other nations, right? If you're like, well, I have the stuff to build like I don't know, I have 4 grade 4 bastions I'm not using. Make a Dragon Tree Keter deck, and you get triple drive on both your rear guards, and it's kind of funny. Like you got some options. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna catch you guys in a little bit with some more stuff I've been working on. Deuces.